This piece of paper is worth exactly 1 cent. It's called an international reply coupon. You buy it at a post office in one country, and someone in another country can trade it for postage stamps. That's all it does. That is everything it does. In 1920, this 1 cent piece of paper took nearly $15 million out of the city of Boston. Because a man with a wonderful smile stood in front of it and made a promise. Hand me your savings, and in 45 days I'll hand them back. Plus half again. 50%. Guaranteed. You would have said no. You'd like to think you would have said no. The road to that promise runs from a card table on an immigrant ship, to police lines outside a Boston office, to a single column of arithmetic in a newspaper, and it ends in a charity ward in Rio de Janeiro, and it turns on one detail almost nobody thought to check. He wasn't actually buying the coupons. Charles Ponzi stepped off a ship from Italy in 1903 with $2.50 in his pocket. He'd left home with about 200. The rest, he cheerfully admitted, was lost to card games on the crossing. I landed with $250 in cash, he liked to say, and $1 million in hopes. Remember that line? He was always better at the second half of it. For 16 years, America told him no. He washed dishes and slept on the restaurant floor. He was fired from a waiter's job for shortchanging the customers. In Montreal, he found work at a bank built for Italian immigrants, and when it collapsed, he signed a name that wasn't his on a check and went to a Quebec prison. He wrote home to his mother that he'd taken a splendid job as an assistant to the warden. Crossing back into the United States, he was caught helping smuggle Italian immigrants over the border. 2 more years, federal this time. Small cons, small sentences, but notice what survived every failure untouched. The pressed suit, the walking stick, the smile. The smile never went to prison. By the summer of 1919, he was 37, married to a good woman named Rose, running a one-desk office in Boston that sold nothing in particular. Then a letter arrived from Spain, and folded inside it was a piece of paper he had never seen before. Now do what he did. Sit at that desk. It's your desk now. The letter is from a businessman in Madrid, and he's enclosed an international reply coupon, prepaid postage, so that you, the stranger, can afford to write him back. He paid about 1 cent for it in Spain. But when you carry it to a Boston post office, they hand you 6 cents in American stamps. 6 for 1. No law broken. Postage rates were fixed by treaty before the war. Then the war wrecked Europe's currencies, and the treaty didn't notice. A dying lira against a fixed stamp price, free money, signed by governments. So here's the pitch, and the pitch is true. Buy coupons cheap in Rome or Madrid, redeem them in Boston, and the arithmetic pays you 500% before expenses. It's not a scam. It's a loophole. And you'd tell your neighbor. That's the point. In December 1919, he hung a name on it. The Securities Exchange Company, and put the promise on paper. 50% interest in 90 days. Then he paid his first notes in 45. The scheme's opening move was to over-deliver. What he told no one was the other half of the arithmetic. Moving coupons at that scale, buying across Europe, shipping, redeeming penny by penny, was impossible, and he knew it within weeks. It didn't matter, because by then the second investor was paying the first. The coupon didn't have to work. It only had to explain. The first investors got paid, in full, early some of them, and that was the last day the scheme ever needed selling. Because now you're back in it. Your barber doubled his money, he shows you the cash. The policeman who was sent to look into the operation put his own savings in on the way out. Your savings earn 5% a year at the bank. The line on School Street earns 50 in 45 days, and every person who's walked out of that office has been paid. So Boston queued. Down the stairs, out the door, around the block. On the best days, the clerks gave up on the ledgers and stacked the money in desk drawers, in closets, in wastepaper baskets. By the 1st of July, the Securities Exchange Company was taking in $1 million a week. At the peak, more than 2, from 30,000 ordinary depositors. And Ponzi went shopping, a controlling stake in the Hanover Trust Bank. The immigrant teller now owned the Marble Lobby, a 12-room house out in Lexington, and a first-class cabin on a liner from Italy because his mother was going to arrive in America the way her son never had. In July, the Boston Post put him on the front page, and the tone was admiration. The Wizard of School Street. The lines doubled overnight. But that headline did one other thing. It reached the desk of the one kind of man the scheme could not survive. A man who could count. The Post's publisher, Richard Grozier, didn't buy it, and he asked the most respected financial analyst in the country, Clarence Barron, to look. Barron didn't accuse anyone of anything. He did division in public. For the Securities Exchange Company to back what it owed, there would have to be roughly 160 million postal reply coupons moving through the system. The number actually in circulation worldwide was about 27,000. And one line, quietly devastating. Ponzi kept his own money in ordinary banks. A man with a machine that pays 50% does not park his fortune at 5. The Post printed the arithmetic on July 26th. No accusation, no adjectives, a column of numbers, and Boston did what cities do when the numbers stop adding. It ran. Now you're in one more line, the same office, the same stairs, except this time you're here to take your money out because the paper says the wizard is a fraud, and around you the crowd is angry and scared. And down the line comes the man himself. Cream suit, straw hat, the smile. He's sent out for coffee and donuts, and he's handing them to the people withdrawing their life savings, cracking jokes, taking his time. Inside, the tellers are paying every claim in full. No arguments, no delays, cash on the counter. And you watch it happen. People reach the window, take their money, and put it back. If he can pay, the paper must be wrong. The crowd that came to gut him ends up cheering him on the sidewalk. That is the moment this whole story exists for. The arithmetic was public, the impossibility was printed, and belief held anyway, because by now nobody in that line was invested in coupons. They were invested in him. Hope, at 50%, guaranteed. It didn't fall to the crowd. It fell from inside. His own publicity man, William McMasters, hired to polish the legend, got a look at the books and found no coupons, and notes coming due with nothing behind them. On August 2nd, the Post ran his confession for him. Declares Ponzi is now hopelessly insolvent. The auditors confirmed the whole ran to millions. On August 12th, Ponzi surrendered to federal agents. Auditors went looking for the mountain of coupons at the bottom of it all. They found $61 worth. $61 against millions. There was never anything under the smile. After that, the fall runs quick. Federal prison for mail fraud. State charges behind it. Out on appeal, he surfaced in Florida selling underwater land. Value guaranteed to triple in 60 days. 60 days, 45 days. The man had exactly one song. Caught again, he jumped bail, shaved his head, grew a moustache, and was pulled off an Italy-bound freighter in New Orleans. In 1934, the government finished the voyage for him and deported him. He drifted to Rio de Janeiro, kept the books for an airline until the war took the route, and on a January night in 1949, he died in a charity ward with $75 to his name. $250 in, $75 out. The rest was never really money. The people in the lines eventually got back less than 30 cents on the dollar over years of lawsuits. And the coupon? Still 1 cent. It was never the machine. It was the alibi, the sliver of true that lets a person hand over money they already wanted to hand over. The same promise comes back every generation in new clothes. Stocks in the 20s, funds in the 80s, tokens now, always the same naked sentence underneath. Enormous return, no risk, guaranteed. When you hear it, you're being offered a place in that line, coffee in hand. Sure, the paper's wrong. He wasn't even the first. A New Yorker ran the same game 20 years before him. But Charles Ponzi smiled better. So it's his name we gave the crime. Somewhere in this episode, a 1-cent coupon is hiding in a frame where it has no business being. Drop the timestamp in the comments when you spot it. And if stories about money, power, and the people who bend both are your thing, subscribe. Next time, a man who sold the biggest company on earth at the exact perfect moment and then gave every dollar of it away. This is rags to riches.